off again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Evening all, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is the start of a new week and delighted to say, as always on a Monday night, joined by Borough Mag. Joe, how are you?
Evening, my friend. All right?
Yep, good to see you, mate. Good to see you. And this show, dear me, we started it off a few weeks ago, and it changes every week. Obviously, the good news is, and it is good news, we can finally stop showing the photograph of Botman in a make-out in Newcastle kit, and we can show him actually shaking hands with Dan Ashworth with a kit in his hand.
Fantastic, eh? Absolutely wonderful sight. I was getting a bit worried, Steve. I don't know about you, but when they said he'd signed and then it was a deal in principle, I was thinking, oh no, what does that mean? You know what I mean? But there now, we've seen him. I'll sleep tonight.
Yeah, it was good. And I mean, it enhances that back four, doesn't it? I mean, it's, another great centre-half to go alongside Dan Burn, to go with Nick Pope and obviously Matty Targett signing the contract. Trippier, of course, signing in January. We've got a very solid back four there with a bit of competition in goal now as well.
It's looking good, Steve, and with the greatest of respect, if you go back to the starting lineup, and I never took much notice at the time, funnily enough, but if you look at the back four and the goalkeeper that started against West Ham at the beginning of last season, completely unrecognisable. Essentially got a team full of internationals now, a defence full of internationals. One of the big things this week, though, since Botman's sign is, I've noticed, especially on social media, Twitter in particular, is the debate around, is he going to play? Where's he going to play? If he is going to play, who's going to drop out? Is Howe about to do some crackers with the tactics that have served us so well? So all interesting stuff to look forward to as this month kind of progresses, really.
Yeah, and it will progress as well. I'm sure with more signings, we've just got to bide our time. And one of the players that's been linked with Newcastle, of course, is Eriksen. It looks very much as if he has made his mind up, and it looks as if he will be going to Manchester United, which, is fair enough. And I guess that's what the point that Blue Rhythm Boy's making, where he says Eriksen going to Man U shows that this project is more attractive to younger, ambitious players and not ones nearing the end who want instant success. Howe has alluded to right ages of players too. And I think Eriksen would have been nice. I think we've all said that it would have been a nice addition to the squad, a bit of experience, last couple of years, and hopefully helping build the foundations that we want. But clearly, I've discussed it on this program before. Maybe he's chasing the money, Joe, rather than the ambition.
It's interesting, Steve, because one of the things we were talking about was about that loyalty and the loyalty that kind of Brentford had shown to him after his health scare. And I think we both last week were talking about the fact that actually, do you know what? It's probably likely he's going to stay where he is. He seems like a decent guy. And then he sells his soul to the worst club in the world. So it's an interesting one. I think from Newcastle's perspective, I'd have had him, Steve. He's an absolutely fantastic footballer. And yes, I understand this thing about looking at the younger end of the market and trying to think about the future, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But actually, every now and again, there are certain players that become available that you think, do you know what, whether he's 32 or he's 22, he'll do a job for a couple of seasons. And I certainly think Eriksen was that player for us. But hey, we move on. We've been linked to quite a lot of central midfielders this week, I've noticed, and I'm not particularly sure whether it's a position that we actually need to be looking at as a priority. I think there's other areas of the pitch that clearly we need to think about. But hey, listen, if he's going to go to Man United, good luck to him. He'll do well, I'm sure.
Yeah, Ten Hag got him training back after the incident at the Euro, so there's loyalty there. To be fair, without training with Ajax, would Brentford have took him? Would have loved him at the tune. So that's a very fair point to make, mate, to be honest. And I personally feel it's his loss and not necessarily our loss. So, let's just see how it all develops. The other disappointment, of course, this week, was Ekitike. It's I think the way that Pete Graves has decided is it's gone dormant, that deal, which doesn't mean it's off. certainly doesn't mean it's on. And I mean, obviously, from my perspective, I was thinking that it was more off than on last week. But Ben Jacobs, punctured that as well last night by saying he felt that the deal was dead in the water. But you just never know, I guess, with this particular transfer, because I think what a lot of people have alluded to, including Ben last night, was that a lot of this has got more to do with the agent rather than the player. And, maybe he's pushing for a better deal. Maybe he's pushing for a bigger move. But that means that, the player may just be leaving it in the hands of the agent. It might mean that maybe before the end of the transfer window, Ekitike could still move to Newcastle. We just don't know, I guess.
He's it's an interesting word, Steve, isn't it? Dormant, it doesn't always have to be black and white, pardon the pun, and maybe what Newcastle have done is said to his club, that's how much we'll pay. They've said to the player and the agent, that's how much you're getting and that's how much you're getting. Take it or leave it. We'll walk away and we'll get on with our business. It's a risky game because if he is holding out for kind of, you hear the PSGs and the Barcelonas et al. Getting touted around. If that's the case, it's a bold move, Steve, because as far as I'm aware, they aren't putting the money on the table. Newcastle have, allegedly. So, yeah, I mean, if you're willing to listen to your agent and not come and play in front of us lot every Saturday, then, is he the type of guy that we actually want? I know he's only a young lad, so maybe the people around him do a lot of his bidding and a lot of his kind of talking for him. But surely, and after Botman particularly, surely that raises your antenna a little bit to think, do you know what? Actually, I quite fancy a bit of that. But you know what? Listen, it's gone on for long enough, Steve. I think we said last week, if he signs, grand. If he doesn't, we won't lose any sleep. So, like you've just said about Eriksen, potentially it'll be this lad's loss when he's playing for Remy again in an average French league when he could be banging goals in for us. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It doesn't feel like the one that's got away to me. It just feels like we've wasted a hell of a lot of time on a player who, is just so indecisive or allows other people to make the decisions for him. And our need for a striker, or goal scorer is it's imperative this season. Really, we need to have somebody who is going to be able to hit the ground running and score goals.
It's interesting though, Steve, isn't it, that we're desperate for it. So we're going to fall foul of two things now, because one, the world knows we've got money, so that's the first thing. So they can, they'll stick another 5 million on, and also we're desperate for a centre forward, and centre forwards are a commodity in themselves. You do not get world class strikers for cheap. You really don't. So unfortunately, that'll be our downfall on two fronts. Inflated transfer fees and the fact that they know, Callum Wilson aside, with respect to Chris Wood, you're dead right. We absolutely need a centre forward. And they know that, but. It's like I keep saying, Steve, whether this guy was the answer, was this the 25 goal a season striker that we're all hoping for? I'm not so sure. He's young, he's explosive, he can play off the flanks. I'm not entirely sure this guy was going to be the 35 game, 30 goal a season striker. So we'll see. We move on.
Yeah, we do move on, and we move on. I'm sure with a lot of interest still in coming to Newcastle United, just because he's turned us down. I'm not going to be too concerned. Michael Ole's a Crystal Palace linked. How much do you guys know about him? Well, he's not a bad player, Barry, and I had selected him as a bit of a talking point tonight. I had done my homework, and 26 games he's played for Crystal Palace. He's a midfielder. Falls into that age category, I guess, of the young kind of player that we are going for at the minute, 20-year-old player. Not so sure Crystal Palace would be eager to get shot of him. He was a youth player at Arsenal and at Chelsea, spent 7 years with them before he left at the age of 14. Was also at Manchester City. So he's been around the big clubs a little bit. Had his first bit of experience at Reading. And then, at Crystal Palace did well and has seemed to progress under Vieira. He has also represented France at under 18 and under 21 level. It's a midfielder. What's your views on that one, Joe?
I'm glad you've done some homework, because I just wrote down Palace winger. He's a good player, Steve. He is a good player, and he's very highly thought of in his opening. He's had a really good opening season for a much improved Palace side, particularly under Vieira. I think one of the things that's brought this to the head is that apparently the Times were reporting that there's a £35 million buyout clause. So Palace have signed him for £8 million last summer, and now all of a sudden there's a £35 million buyout. So I don't know whether this is just media nonsense again, thinking, well, we're looking at young wingers. He's around the price range that we've been signing footballers for, around that 30 million mark. But if you were to read into the actual reports, what people were saying was that Crystal Palace are really, really keen to tie this lad down. And apparently, as we speak, Palace are working on kind of getting this nailed and increasing that kind of his contract and increasing the buyout to kind of keep the Wolves from the door. So I don't know, Steve, it's come from absolutely nowhere. But I guess, as we've said, week in or day in, day out, another player comes from absolutely nowhere. I'm sure we've watched him. I'm sure the scouts have had a look at him because he is young and he is a talent. Will he be coming? I don't know. And I think for me, if you're looking at spending anywhere near £35 million, and I'm going to be greedy again, you'd stick another 10 million on it and buy Diaby, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and that takes us nicely to Diaby, because again, that is somebody who is on the is on the list, I guess, and seems to be a lot of heat, development around that one. Is that somebody who you'd like to see at Newcastle? I mean, he's clearly a star player, and he would bring a bit of excitement to the squad.
It's like a well-oiled machine, this show tonight, isn't it? Fantastic. I would, Steve. I absolutely would. I mean, the stats alone, and I'll be honest, and I've said it, I haven't seen the guy play. I don't know a great deal about him, but you only have to look at the statistics of the lad and read the press around him. This is the one that kind of gets you excited. This is the one where you start to think. I see a lot of people kind of putting their predicted first team 11s out ready for the new season with potential signings, and you're looking at midfields with Paqueta in there and Diaby, and all of a sudden, you really do start to get excited, Steve. Listen, it hasn't gone away, and usually people would come out and say he's either not for sale, no chance, or he's going to Real Madrid, and that hasn't happened. In fact, if you believe what you read, the president of Leverkusen was saying, look, every now and again you've got to sell a big player, and I don't know whether that was so come and get him if you want him, but it doesn't go away, Steve. It's clear that we're looking at that right hand side of the pitch. We talked about that last week. And this lad would be absolutely class. So, yeah, I think this is the one for me after we've missed out on my dream signing was Haaland. We got Botman was my other one. So, yeah, maybe Diaby's going to be the big one this summer.
Yeah, 2 goals in 26 appearances, Roger. I think he's talking about the guy from Palace. Elliott Anderson is the same risk as Ekitike, says Dan. And, of course, he's on our books, Elliott Anderson. Lots of people in the chat saying, should we maybe give him a chance under Howe's guidance? Maybe now is the time to give Elliott Anderson a chance. Is he going to benefit more from playing for Newcastle and working with Howe than he is going on the road, do you think?
I'm unsure, Steve. I think for me, I think we talked about this lad last week, and I think he'd benefit from another season or so away. I'm not doubting for a minute that he's got the talent to kind of come on and do a job for us. But there's a hell of a lot riding on this season. Eddie Howe's, and this is good, again, ridiculous comment, but Eddie Howe's got to get this right this season. Because if we're now in the market for Diaby and these type of players, we're going to start. World-class players demand world-class managers. And, we all know that Eddie Howe's nowhere near that yet. So I think for me, Anderson would probably benefit. I don't see what benefit he'd get. Yes, he'd get it on the training pitch in and around the guys, but what benefit would he get on a Saturday if for 25, 30 Saturdays out of the season he's sitting on the bench, Steve? I'd much rather him be playing top half of the Championship, learning his trade, really getting stuck in, getting some appearances under his belt, and then go for it kind of, next season with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's hit and miss when you give youngsters a chance. And I mean, there's been more misses than hits. I mean, I've seen so many young players, come into the team and not be able to progress. But to be fair, a lot of those players have come in when Newcastle have been struggling or in lower division. And from my perspective, this team is going to progress. You've got a great manager and coach. You've got a good foundation. maybe it would be different.
It's I guess for me, Steve, it's how do you do it? So how do you utilise him? How do you get him in there and give him the freedom of St James's Park and say, look, son, don't worry, you're going to give the ball away, the passes are going to go out, hopefully the crowd don't get on his back, you know, if that was to happen. But I agree with you, there's been lots and lots of false dawns, and I think when we finally actually got one, we absolutely need to manage him and look after him properly, because we thought we had one in Matthew Longstaff, and look what happened. I know this is a completely different kettle of fish now, but for me, I'd just be careful, you know, putting him in there, because it's going to be an absolute cauldron in there this season. And there's going to be raised expectations. And for a lad, you know, it'll either go one way or the other, won't it? He'll either do a Wayne Rooney and just absolutely hit the ground running and take the world by storm, or it'll affect him. And I think if he is as good as people are making out that he is, why would we risk affecting him? Why would we not just keep letting him ply his trade and do it properly? So, yeah, I'd send him out on loan.
Rochi asking about Savage. We're being linked with him. Better than Pogba, they say. That wouldn't be hard. I mean, it's another name to add to the list. You know, he's slightly older, 26, 27-year-old, I think, and he's at Lazio at the moment. Does score goals, done okay in his career. Obviously, Lazio is his main club, but he's a Serbian international, and played over 30 games for Serbia. But bit more experience in him, that would be more down the Ericsson route, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think me and you are better than Pogba, aren't we? Interesting one, that, Steve. And again, another name that relatively came out of nowhere. I picked up on this lad's name because I was led to believe that Arsenal were very interested in him and very close to signing him for in and around 40 million quid. But very recently, Arsenal have been linked with another player that we were allegedly looking at, which is Tielemans of Leicester. So it's interesting, isn't it, to think about, again, you're talking about that central midfield, aren't you? You're talking about kind of, is that a position that we really need to be strengthening in? And even if people like Shelvey or, you know, was to go out, for example, Sean Longstaff just signed a new contract, obviously Joe Linton and Bruno. So I think we're all right in the centre of the park. We've certainly got more numbers than we ever had before. There's big things expected of Joe Willock this season. So I don't know, Steve. I don't know where it's come from, either Tielemans or this lad, to be honest. But again, Serbian international, plies his trade in Serie A, 27-year-old, so very experienced. And like you say, you know, knows where the back of the net is. So, yeah, I suppose you'd sign him, wouldn't you? But I'm not sure that we need anybody else in the centre of the park.
Yeah, it's not a priority, is it? A winger, yes. A centre forward, goal scorer, yes. Yeah. Centre midfield, we could probably do okay with that, like, you know, at least till January.
And I think if you think about the inflated prices that you always get in a January window, we know how difficult it is to sign, particularly goal scoring centre forwards in January. If Howe is looking at that centre of midfield, and if there's something in there that he sees that we don't, and you know, progression to be made, maybe that's a position to think about in the next transfer window, Steve, where I think you're right. I think the absolute priority now has to be a centre forward and this winger that we're, you know, almost certainly looking at.
Sooty says, do you think the player wages are going to become a stumbling block for possible suitors who may be interested in any of our outgoings? Dwight Gale springs to mind.
You had to mention him, didn't you? Yes, it does, Steve. I'm sure it does. However, again, it would be nice to clear the books completely. But actually, are we in a position? You hear about lots of deals nowadays where parent clubs will kind of contribute to people's wages and such like, just to kind of clear a space up in the squad and save a little bit of money. It's got to, Stephen, and you talk about players' motivations there. We talked about Hugo's motivation there. We could talk all day about Dwight Gale's, you know, motivation. And listen, if you were to pay me, I don't know what he's on, 80, 90 grand a week just to sit and never come on this show and just be quite happy doing so. Some would say that'd be a good thing, but I can see why he's doing it. But yeah, he's linked with the Championship constantly, but who on earth's going to be able to afford to pay him 30, 40, 50 grand, never mind 70, 80, 90, whatever we're paying him. So yeah, I think it does, Steve. But again, goes back to bad management of the football club. Let's be honest, the lad shouldn't be on the books. He shouldn't have got that ridiculous contract when we thought we were going to sell him and command a fee for him. And I'm sure he's not the only one, Steve. I'm sure Matt Ritchie's not there for nothing. I'm sure there's players on that fringe who are earning a decent amount of money. And yeah, of course it's a problem. We're hopefully, thankfully, coming out of a global pandemic. Football's in massive recession. Thankfully, Newcastle United aren't, but other clubs are, So, yeah, it will be a problem. And other than ripping the contracts up and paying them off just to get rid of them I don't know what we do. You might end up staying.
Barry Hogan, good evening. He says, Gazette listing free agents who we might be interested in. Would you take Denier, Lingard, Dembele or Romagnoli? I mean, Lingard, again, we've gone quiet on Lingard, but we've spoken about him on the show a few times now, and it has raised its head again. I did mention this last week. I did say potentially Lingard would still be an option if his wages came down, and because nobody seems to be touching him with a barge pole, I think that's a long-term one, isn't it? But what about those other names?
I think go back to what we were saying about Hugo, Steve. It makes me wonder if there's an agent sat with a slight sweat on somewhere going, okay, I'm trying to hold my nerve, but the clubs will hold their nerve as well. And I think, to be honest, looking at the fact that the lad's 29 years old, yes, he's a good player. That's undoubtable. Yes, he was brilliant for West Ham when he was on loan there. But I think from our perspective, would you be spending, would you essentially wreck your wage structure to bring a 29-year-old in, who was bench warming for Man United for the best part of 2 years? So I don't know. I'm not so sure. I'm not entirely sure who the other players are, if I'm being brutally honest. I know Dembele is an absolutely fantastic footballer, and I think he's been linked with Newcastle quite a few times in the past. But again, when you kind of see his name, that's always linked with, some of the big boys will be looking at him and he will end up going, into the Champions League and commanding a place in one of their sides. So, but if they're free and they fit our wage structure and they're better than what we've got, let's sign them.
Yeah, surprised we haven't managed to con Steve Bruce and West Brom into buying Gale, says Mark Edward Brown. There is plenty time for that, mate. If we were prepared to spend 35 million on potential with Hugo, it's a no-brainer to spend 45 million on Diaby, who is pure class, says Stephen. Romagnoli, AC Milan captain, he is mint, says Aaron. Thank you for that, mate. This one from Jack Sparrow. He says, hi, Dara and Diaby links today. Diaby liked the idea after the Botman deal was done. Do you think Botman will be the catalyst for others to follow, Joe?
I think absolutely. I think it was a real statement signing, Steve. If you believe what you hear and you believe the hype, this guy is one of the top up-and-coming defenders in European, if not world football. And he's just signed for Newcastle United for over £30 million. So that must make other players look and think, hang on, what's he playing at? He could have been at the San Siro. He could have been winning Serie A. He could have been, going to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And he isn't. He's come to play alongside Shah and Byrne for Newcastle United. And the statement that he made, Steve, about the project, and he made that statement in January. If you listen to Amanda, the guy was really interested in what we were doing. So why wouldn't you? There must be players now thinking, well, if it's good enough for Botman, it's good enough for me, And I think the Diaby signing, if we're going to get him, that's another massive statement of intent, like Gumares was. So when you're ready to go on again and you're ready to build again and you're ready to turn your £35 million players into £55 million players, all of a sudden, the football world starts to take notice. So, yeah, I think let's be honest, Kieran Trippier kicked all this off and now, people are following suit. Fantastic time to be a fan.
No, it definitely is. It's dreamland for us, really, compared to what we've had to deal with over the last few years. And Roger's asking what our thoughts are on the 5 under-23s being moved up to seniors. It's good news, isn't it? It's great to see youth progressing. It's making up for lost time as well, Joe. There's not been that searching in the locality and bringing in new talent. We've lost it. Bobby Clark, Lee Clark's son, of course, departed to Liverpool, and he's been, a lot of praise heaped on him as one of the best young players to come out of the region for a long, long time. So it's good to see that. And it brings us nicely onto the acquisition of, Jordan Hackett as well, another player who has come in. And I've got to be honest, we've signed now Michael Ndweni, Jamie Miley, Kyle Crossley, Harry Barkley, James Huntley, Josh Stewart, Ellis Stanton. They've all agreed full-time deals with Newcastle. And Jordan Hackett's now obviously joined from Tottenham. And what I liked was Jordan Hackett's quote when he came in. He says, "I was here on trial for the week. I really enjoyed it. The lads had made me feel welcome from the first day. I stepped into the building. It was a hard decision to move away from London. My mum didn't like it. But you have to do what you have to do to make a career in the game. And I think this is the best decision for myself. I like Eddie Howe. He's a good manager who knows what he's doing. And he likes younger players. He was a big factor in joining the club because if I do well, he will take a look at me or think about using me." That's great, isn't it? Hearing that coming from a youngster who's, such a young lad, coming from London to Newcastle.
Absolutely, Steve. I wonder if they had to do what they did with Robert Lee and told him that it was close to London. It's fantastic, and I think like you've said, one of the things that we've been starved of, basically, certainly over the last decade, is investment, and looking at kind of the development teams and looking at kind of growing players, as opposed to just being desperate enough to spend whatever on whoever. So it's really, really good, Steve. And I think if you listen to what Dan Ashworth was saying, if you think about the roles of the likes of Steve Harper at the football club, the academy and the youth setup and the sustainability moving forward for the future of our team had to be one of the priorities, because, like you say, if lads like Bobby Clark, and I'm not just saying it because we love Clarky, but people were raving about this lad. He was absolutely class. And yet again, what happens? He's born on our doorstep and he goes off and signs for Liverpool. It's an absolute crime, Steve. So I think now getting some of these lads in, again, like we talked about Elliott Anderson, though, I guess it's about nurturing them. It's about looking after them. It's about getting players out on loan. I know people wonder about Shola Amiobi's kind of role at the football club, but Shola's going to play a big part with these lads. Getting them out, getting them some experience, and then making sure the minute that they're ready, Eddie Howe knows about it, and they're there training with the first team, and it's fantastic. It doesn't always have to be about who's the next £50 million signing. And if you think about mega squads like Chelsea and like Manchester City, they've got 40 and 50 young lads who are class out on loan all over Europe. It'd be nice to think we were in a position to start doing that.
Yeah, and I think, give it a bit of time. That's what'll happen. I think it's part of the bigger plan with Newcastle, the encouragement of youth development. And, that leads to success sometimes, but it also leads to saving the club a hell of a lot of money moving forward, or making the club money if need be. But it's a good business model to have. Jack loves the Gypsy King top that you've got on, Joe.
My hero.
Classic, mate. Absolute classic. Okay, big shout out as always to our sponsors. Thanks very much to Spider Miner, worldwide coverage from Gareth, Nathan and the lads, the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks to Scott and the lads at Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245, and a Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to Cleekai, meet the new Game Over screen, drop into a Clearrun device near you, available on Apple Store, Google Play, and clearrun.game. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's, great stuff from them, King Naga, and all kinds of hot sauces. And you can get that from 01768210102. Email them info@mrvickies.co.uk or go to the website mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video technology. And if you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the right-hand corner and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to your social media, and drop it into the comments box to leave a question or to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. It goes up 24 hours after the YouTube show has finished. If you want to become a member, click join underneath the video. And if you want to spend a little bit more money and join the cult and get a pen, a cup, a scarf, a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw, then go to NUFCmatters.com and click membership, or put your smartphone over the QR code and it will take you straight there. If you're a subscriber, we do give you a car sticker for free. You just need to email john@nufcmatters.com to get it. We also support the food bank on here, nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. Please make a virtual donation using the Matchday bucket. It's very important outside of the season to help support the food bank. And we're also giving away another Alan Shearer ball. It's $2.99 a ticket, signed by Alan Shearer, the 260 dinner. Limited to 99 tickets. A couple more weeks to go on this. Get your tickets. You've got to be in it to win it. Don't forget, Tyson Fury, Joe's hero, is at the Fed on Thursday night. And tickets are still available. goldstarpromotions.co.uk is the website to buy your tickets. There are some £50 balcony tickets available now, just been made available, but it's very close to selling out, so do not miss out. The Botman t-shirt is on sale as well at the website, nufcmatters.com, so get yourself on there for that. And a shout out for Peter Beardsley's Soccer School. PeterBeardsleySoccerSchool.com is the website. We are looking for sponsors where you can sponsor places for underprivileged children in the Northeast. Great idea, that. And if anybody can help sponsoring, just go to PeterBeardsleySoccerSchool.com to look for further details. But it's doing really well, that, and delighted about Peter. Pleased to see that really taken off. Okay, just seen your tweet about Diaby. What's going on, Sean? Lots of talk about it. That's what we're here to do, trying to separate the wheat from the chaff, if you like. So just stay tuned. You never know, there might be breaking news. Blue Rhythm Boy, thoughts on Broja? I think it'd be a good signing if we can get him. Might be a loan. Yeah, a lot of talk about him, Joe. Done quite well on loan. And from my perspective, again, you know, it's paper talk, but it's an interesting one. And there is a real chance, you know, that could be a deal that could be done. Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it, thinking about bringing people in on loan, Steve? If you think about what we were saying about is there any money left? If there is money left, who have we got lined up? I still live in that cloud cuckoo land where I think if we've got money to spend, we'll sign Diaby and Parketta, why not? And then bring a striker in on loan. But I'm getting slightly carried away now. Yeah, Southampton, he had a decent enough season, I suppose, although 6 goals in 32 games. I don't know whether he was starting every week, and I certainly don't know whether he's an out-and-out kind of centre forward. Be interesting to get an Albanian. I'm sure, unless someone wants to correct me, we've never had an Albanian footballer before, so that'd be quite nice. Interesting bit about this, though, Steve, is yet again about his age, but also his height. And all of a sudden, Newcastle, somebody had said kind of we're a team of giants now, all of a sudden, with all the 6-footers in the side. And you commented last week, Sven Botman's built like a house, and him and Byrne at the back. I'd like to think we're not going to miss out on a header in the box, much this season. And this lad is 6'3". Ekatike, 6 foot odd. Calvert-Lewin, big lad, so I wonder somewhere if this is just a coincidence or whether there's actually something in the psyche of Eddie Howe to say, I like big, strong lads, and that's what we're going to do, So look out for Peter Crouch next week.
Doing the robot. You can get Belletti and Ro McNally, both Italy internationals for now, both about 27. Yeah, Belletti's another name that's been bandied around this weekend. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of Serie A, Steve, if I'm being brutally honest. I don't watch a massive amount of it. But again, if you're good enough to play for Italy, especially the run they've been on recently, surely you're good enough to play for Newcastle United. So, yeah, watch this space. Why not? Nice to be linked with more internationals.
Yeah, Toon Trader, I hope you're doing well. You haven't missed a great deal, mate. Just a lot of talk about potential transfers. So let's hope that some of them come in. Where's Barry's question? I want to get that one. And he says, Joe, the bookies are usually right. Who do they have us signing next?
So interestingly, I saw that, Barry, and I'm just randomly looking at odds you can get on Betfair. Apparently, you can still get 6-4 for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which is interesting, and especially now that Richarlison's moved on. Jesse Lingard's there at 9-4. And then two interesting names, a really interesting one who's been in the press just this week, actually. Marcus Rashford, 4-1. Had an absolute mare for Manchester United last season, of course. And he was talking a lot about looking forward to coming back. And, is that him kind of putting himself out there so we don't forget about him? And the other interesting one, according to this site that I've got, is 5-1, is our old mate Ivan Toney. So that link doesn't go away as well with the bookmakers, but certainly in terms of out-and-out favourites, Diaby's still up there and Paqueta as well. So interesting from the bookies.
Yeah, Paqueta's never going to go away by the looks of it. It seems as if that's going to be constantly linked. And it's definitely a player that gets Newcastle United fans excited because of the Brazilian connection. But as I keep saying, it all seemed to have stemmed just from his relationship with Gomes, and you just don't know, But look, you never say never. One that looks like it's definitely going to happen, and he's already at the club, is of course Callum Wilson. We've talked many times about him on the various shows that we have on here. If only he wasn't injury prone, but it looks as if the club are going to reward him with a new contract.
Interesting, Steve. I think we touched upon this maybe a few weeks back, that if you listen to what Callum Wilson was saying about certain lifestyle changes that he's made, I'm led to believe that he's moving up to Newcastle now. So those long drives down south, kind of before and after games and such like, kind of, what he was talking about was how that impacts on his kind of, his legs, his thighs and his calves. He's talking a lot about being fit. Apparently in Eddie Howe's last season in charge at Bournemouth, Callum Wilson almost played a full season. And this is the interesting bit about the centre forward, because as much as we keep saying we need that 25 goal a season centre forward, do you know what, Steve? We've got one. We've actually got one, because I think if Callum Wilson stays fit, and if Callum Wilson gets the service into the box that potentially the likes of Diaby and Gomes and hopefully Sam Maximin are going to provide him this season, he might be the one, I feel much more confident giving this lad a new contract than I did giving Dwight Gale a new contract, a couple of seasons ago. So the lad's class, and he's been fantastic for us. Yes, we can't rely on him, unfortunately, but let's just see. So it might be that if we got Diaby and we potentially got Paqueta as well, that might be your forward line sorted, because you've still got ASM, you've still got Chris Wood, who may or may not play a part. We talk about Elliott Anderson, you've got Ryan Fraser, you've got lots and lots of options going forward. So yeah, maybe Wilson is the man, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's done very well. Just hopefully, he can beat that, that injury run that he's had, a bad injury run, and if he has a clear season, it would be fantastic. Michael Pomar says, Joe, they're rumored to be looking at Kolasinac too, who is another beanpole, and I think he's at Mainz at the moment, if I'm right, maybe, but he's a striker, isn't he?
Yeah, not someone
German
I'm
striker.
Yeah, not someone I'm massively familiar with, Steve. Led to believe he's a good player. Obviously, we've heard his name, and as Michael said, yeah, he's another one that's 6'27". So there might be something in it,
Yeah, I think they'll stick with Chris Wood. They spent the money on him. I don't think they'll be looking at somebody like that. I think they'll be looking at somebody who's quick and somebody who's agile, who can put the ball in the back of the net. Rachel says, I don't think he'll be as injury prone under the correct training regime with Eddie and his team. Yeah, at least there is a training regime. John says, is it smart to give him a new deal when he's so injury prone? He's got 2 years left on his deal, so I don't really get it. Blue Rhythm Boy says, quite a few I know are saying they'd let Wilson go this summer as he's not reliable, but I think we're seeing how difficult he is to replace. Jack says, do you think a decent pre-season and his family life will help him? Most certainly. That's I think that's what me and Joe were saying there, 100%. Wilson is a 1 and 2 striker if he can stay fit, says Ian Toon Trader. He also says that Diaby is my number 1 signing now. Have you heard if it's true that there's an offer on the table but no agreement with the club? Yeah, look, certain journalists are starting to report that's got a lot of legs, but some of them are the same journalists who said Ekitike was, was going to be a done deal. Can't take a chance on Wilson being fit all season, in my opinion, says Trolls. And Chris Wood has failed miserably. Can't fault his work ethic. Yeah, I think he came in and did the job he was supposed to do. Political bias. Yeah, he came in, he held the ball up, and don't forget that 9-game run, the first 9-game run where we went unbeaten, was key in staying up. And Chris Wood played every game. And that's from my perspective, I think he will get a chance at Newcastle. He won't be playing every game, but he'd be there and thereabouts, and I think he'd be happy with that. I'd snatch your hands off for Diaby and Paqueta only to the rest of the window. It would be a fantastic outcome. Yeah, I think a lot of people would as well. Old school, classic, smart thinking. Getting giant centre backs. Not many people are getting on the end of corners and crosses when Burn and Botman are there. John, you're right. Okay, let's go to this one. Dan says, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing some of the youth players getting a run out. Might already have a start or not know it yet. We did touch on that earlier on. Barry asks who our number 1 target up front would be. It's just somebody who can score goals. It doesn't have to be a big name. It could be anybody. I think, I've said I would much prefer to have a little bit of somebody with Premiership experience. And we're running out of options. Manchester United's, the link there with one of their strikers, or Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But I'm not sure Man United are willing to do business with us. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is probably my shout. I'd love to have Harry Kane, Barry. I'd love to have Harry Kane for 2 reasons. 1, because he put the ball in the back of the net, and 2, he can come to St James's Park and break Shearer's record, and we won't be that bothered about it because he'd be in a black and white shirt. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, that's the dream signing, isn't it? Harry Kane, obviously. It's a great question, Barry. Interesting just listening to you there, Steve, when you said about proven Premier League goal scorer, kind of experience. I'll throw a name out there that'll probably end up with a load of ridicule for me in the comments, but do you start to look at players like Danny Ings, for example? He's been around. He knows where the back of the net is. I'm guessing you don't have to spend 45 million for him. Whether Southampton would ever let him go or what, I don't know. But there are players who would absolutely do a job. Look at people over the years, and I'll have to mention it, and I'll apologise to our viewers, but look at the job that people like Jermaine Defoe were doing for Sunderland, towards the end of their careers. And you know what? They were absolute masterstrokes. It doesn't have to be this kind of, 22-year-old Brazilian international that we've only ever played with on FIFA or whatever. So there might be some players like that, Steve, that you're thinking, actually, they're not fashionable, but they know where the back of the net is, and that's going to be really, really important. And it's interesting talking about who's going to do business with who. I know Broja that we mentioned there obviously is a Chelsea player. I'm led to believe that Everton are supposedly looking at him. Does that put us at a disservice? Because obviously I'm guessing that Chelsea wouldn't mind doing a bit of business with Frank Lampard. So where do we go? Where do we go for this absolute goal scorer if it's not going to be Callum Wilson? So I don't know, Steve. I know you're a fan. I know you talk a lot about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. If you're looking at realistic targets with Premier League experience and goal scorers, you're probably right, because I can't think of a million more. Man City don't own one anymore. Would we get Harry Kane? I mean, you're talking, 200 million, aren't you? And there's another player, and I know my dad will be sat somewhere and he's going to fall off the chair when I say this. Cristiano Ronaldo knows where the back of the net is as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo, he won't want to come to Newcastle. He's chasing money and he's chasing Champions League, so I can't see that. But yeah,
Not
look,
the way
and I think we'll
not
get
the way
Harry
I've
Kane.
been from my seats.
I think we'll get Harry Kane for 150 million, but I'm not sure he'd want to
You
come
think?
to Newcastle just yet. Yeah, I think we would. Thoughts on Tellys and Shaw possibly leaving Man United? Do we need another left back? Let's stick with Dummett as backup and hope he stays fit. I think we're fine in the back four. I think Jamal Lewis will get his opportunity as well as Matty Targett and Dummett. We've got three on the left. We've got ample right backs. I mean, you know, I think they'll keep Kraft. Kraft was brilliant when Trippier was out. A lot depends on who goes, John. I think, but what's your thoughts on those two players?
Tellez doesn't look particularly very good, I must admit. I was a big fan of Luke Shaw. I thought he was quite unfairly treated under Jose Mourinho. When he's come back into the side, he looks like a player. I think in terms of quality. But listen, we've signed Matt Targett, and like you say, Steve, there are other options as well. And interestingly, I forgot all about Jamal Lewis. I'll be honest with you. And do you know what? I know he looks a little bit iffy. He is only a young lad, but there's potential there, certainly. He's very, very good going forward, very quick.
Looked okay in those. And he only played a game or two under Howe before he got injured. Howe seemed to fancy
he got injured, yeah, he did. I don't think fullbacks are a priority now at all, left or right.
Yeah, Michael Ndwini going pre-season, says Jack. I think those kind of players will be in and around the first team. He's certainly been encouraged, and I think Howe likes that, which is what the young lad from Tottenham has just said. With Lingard being mentioned again, can we not give him a signing on fee then add to his wage structure? Yeah, Mark, that's what would normally happen, I think, in that situation. But they'll want to get the best deal for the club. That's what they'll want to do. Sterling, could he be the marquee signing, says Barry? Of course he could, but I'm not sure where he would. I'm not sure if he would come to Newcastle. Again, it's somebody who's still got desperation, I think, to win things. It's got to be somebody who's going to buy into the project. Victor Osimhen, of course, Joe, we've mentioned him on the show before as well, but he could be out of our our price range at 60 million for DCL, 70 million for Osimhen.
Champions League player, Steve, isn't he? Let's be honest. It'd be great. It'd be absolutely wonderful to pull something like that out the bag. And I'm still holding on to that, by the way. I'm still absolutely clinging on to the fact that we might wake up one day and get massively surprised here.
Yeah, and we might do. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of talk of a marquee signing, so never ever write it off. Danny Ings at Villa. Joe mentioned that earlier on. Zero chance of getting Sterling, says Roger. And I can't see that happening at this moment in time. Troll says Diaby would be great, but Howe wants two players in each position. If we have Fraser and Miggy, really hope we get him on. I keep forgetting about those two players. You forget about some of the players you've got, and with Howe having a full pre-season with some of these players, there may be a change. He may decide to go with what he's got up front and see how it goes. You just never know. We may start the season without the striker and then find that he comes in just before the transfer window closes. That's could happen. You just never know. Osimhen looks great for me, but I don't think he'll want to pay the 80 million the reporter is wanting. Ings is a good call as backup. He's always been a pain in the backside when we've played against him, says he.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, Steve, isn't it? That you talk about Eddie Howe wanting those two players in each position. You could stick a third one in there if you put Jacob Murphy there. But what we're talking about is we're building quality. And listen, unpopular opinion, I'm full of them, Anna, but I like Ryan Fraser. I think he's a cracking footballer, and especially now that he looks like he wants to be there and wants to play for us. But you're talking about Diaby here, you're talking about Paqueta, and I think if you think, or Raheem Sterling or whatever, and I think if you're looking at that ilk of player, you could have 10 Ryan Frasers and 10 Miggy Almirons. they would not be staying around. They certainly wouldn't be playing ahead of these guys. So, and that's an interesting one, isn't it? Almiron versus Fraser. Who would you put in? Is it Miggy's right position to be playing out there? I don't think anybody's ever found the ladder position. Although that goal he scored against Palace would kind of fly in the face of that. I don't know. You'd probably get more money for Almiron, wouldn't you? So if you were going to sell one of them, I think it'd be Almiron that would go, and it'd be Fraser and Diaby, I think.
Yeah, I think they've both got a part to play next season. Genuinely do. I think Eddie Howe likes both of the players and gives him a bit of an option as well. All the talk about getting a new striker, says Stephen, with Howe liking a lone striker. We've got one proper one with Wilson. We just need a mobile understudy, he says. Is there a solid rumour on outgoings? We need to get the likes of Hendrick, Gale, Darlow, Gillespie and Clark off the books. I've said this before, Sooty. I think we got a bit of a heads up that Clark's already gone, but it hasn't been announced yet for whatever reason. But yeah, there needs to be players off the books. Cavani, free agent, bangs him in. Great shout, Frank. I like Cavani.
Yeah, absolutely. That goal he scored against us when we should have buried him at home last season. I didn't like him at that moment. But yeah, listen, the lad's class, isn't he? And like you say, Steve, if you're looking at players like that, look at the impact that someone like Larsson had when he come to the Premier League. Look at Ibrahimovic. These lads who were at the far end of their careers. They certainly could still do a job for you. So, yeah, but again, would Man United want to do business with us if he was to go on and score 15 goals? Probably not.
Fraser for Ian, he says, Miggy is a 10 and has never been played there. Bruce Ball, says Dan, which, yeah, I would agree with. Stephen Parker says, if or when do you think we would sign the likes of Diaby as pre-season is close? It's ongoing, isn't it? It's ongoing. And I think with Ashworth coming in, he's had to hit the ground running, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Yeah, and I think again, the list of priorities, I'm sure Eddie Howe was jumping up and down to sort that back four out, or certainly shore it up and positions, competition for the goalkeeper place as well. So, but listen, we're Newcastle fans, aren't we? We love centre forwards, we love our strikers, we love our flair players and our attacking players. So maybe now we've done the business end of it. Maybe it's time now that kind of, we'll pull it out the bag. But I'm sure that you don't just do deals for £50 million strikers, international strikers overnight. I'm sure these things will take time. So listen, he'll definitely be on a list somewhere. And I'm sure if Dan Ashworth wants him and PIF want him, they'll buy him.
Yeah, exactly. Would you take Zaha, says Suki?
Wilf, he spends slightly more time on his feet and not whinging than Richarlison. Undoubtable talent, absolutely. But again, astronomical amount of money, Steve, really. So, yes, if I was playing fantasy football.
Yeah, Jason Scott will cover this with Ross Gregory in the morning. I did see people twisting and moaning about the price of the ticket. Dear God. Michael says, Steve, Joe, do you think the ownership are going to be happy to keep players around the squad that aren't registered in the 25, like January, or will they do anything to get rid? Joe, it's an interesting one. That I've got to be honest. I think they may well have to cut their losses with some of these players.
Yeah, I think there's something for me about. We're talking about a business, Steve, and I'm sure that if you look at the businesses that our owners are involved with, what they will not do is just have water carriers around. Everybody will have a job to do. Everybody will be performing at the top of the level. That's why these people are billionaire business owners. Their companies work. Why would Newcastle United be any different? And sometimes you need to speculate to accumulate, don't you? So maybe it'll be a case of, look, I'm sorry, Jeff Hendrick. I'm sorry, Dwight Gale, et al. You've just got to go, and whatever it costs us, see you later.
Tammy Abraham, would he stay at Roma? Says Tom, it's a name that I've chucked in the mix a couple of times. Again, Rafa Benitez wanted him at Newcastle. It wasn't to be, but I think he'd be a good signing. That's the kind of striker I think would do well at Newcastle as well.
Yeah, I do, Steve. He's got a slight touch of the Andy Cole about him for me. And I know Andy Cole come from kind of humbler, kind of places. He didn't certainly come from Roma or from Chelsea. But I think in terms of that kind of upfront, quick, talismanic striker, yeah, absolutely. He had a wonderful season at Roma, though I can't see him, I can't see them letting him go easy.
I love Miggy to bits, and his pressing was really impressive towards the end of the season. He simply doesn't contribute enough goals and assists. Nice squad piece. That's all the same for Fraser, says Michael. Brilliant transfer window up to now. Just need a striker and another attacking midfielder. What's the odds, Joe, on the critics starting with brought too many players? Crap. Yeah, I mean, it's, look, I think we'll do all right, mate. I think we'll do all right. I think we'll get what we want in this transfer window. We've already done really well, but I think we'll still get what we want.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, isn't it? The critics. I know there's a certain radio station that I won't mention with a certain former Aston Villa striker who's just constantly talking out of his ass. But it seems that I can't think. It seems to me that we've suddenly won a bit of favour with Sky all of a sudden nationally in terms of the media. I know there's a couple of written journalists as well, Mr. Edwards et al, who just like having a go at us and winding us up. But I think actually in terms of the critics, I haven't heard anybody call any of our signings poor. The kind of the national media is starting to get behind us now and behind Eddie Howe. So, hopefully long may that continue. I mean, in the 90s, we were the nation's darlings, weren't we? Everybody loved us. And I think that we potentially could get anywhere near that again is fantastic.
Barry's asking what we'll think about the vampire Suarez.
Again, fabulous player. Why not? Him and John Joe Shelby would be interesting together, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there would be, yeah. Tielemans, you mentioned him earlier. Obviously, big links. I did press Ben Jacobs on that, and he said it's a doable deal.
Yeah, I like him, Steve. It was really interesting. My mate said, "Oh, you're linked with that midfielder from Leicester," and I was thinking, I thought we've gone past the Chowdhury days. I thought Hamza was back for his 10th transfer window in a row. I like this lad. I really, really do. I think he took up a position in that midfield after Kante went to Chelsea. This lad kind of stepped up. He's a regular for Belgium, and you've got to be a good footballer to get in that current Belgium side alongside kind of De Bruyne, etc. So I like him. I am led to believe. I was just reading just before we come on air that he's been heavily linked with Arsenal apparently. So we'll see where that one goes. But again, repeat myself, do we need a central midfielder? And we'll leave that question open, I guess.
Michael says the spine's pretty darn good already. Pope, Botman, Bruno, Wilson, build around those and we are golden. Yeah. Suarez has a bite to him, says Trolls. Yeah, I think so. Pundits were actually raving about the Pope deal, saying it's one of the best season, makes a change. I've got to be honest, Dan, and I think it might have been Joe who sent us the stats actually for one of the shows a while back, and I've kept them here. And just to show you, most clean sheets, somebody definitely sent this to me on a WhatsApp group. But there's Pope in there, third place behind Edison and Allison, 35, and that's 2019-2020. So the guy's got skills. There's no doubt about it. Most keeper sweeper regains in the Premier League since 2019-20. Pope with 72, ahead of Becker and ahead of Edison, and ahead of Aaron Ramsdale, Newcastle's new number one. So there is some good stats there which back that up, I think. And like I said, it's competition. It's competition for Dubravka, which is what he needed. He needed somebody breathing down his neck, Joe.
I think he starts. I think he's our new number one. I honestly don't think you'd bring in a potential England international in a World Cup year and just sit him on the bench. And if you think about, there's a clamour for goalkeepers. We were linked with Henderson. He's moved on now. It's an absolutely vital position. And I wonder if somebody somewhere said to him, if you're coming to St. James's Park, you're playing. So that'll be a really interesting one. But I really like him. I think it's a great signing.
Yeah, Gary Hannon, thank you very much for becoming a member, mate. Much appreciated. Brereton for Blackburn. That's a name I had on this show well before the end of the season. It was something we were linked with in the last transfer window, Joe. So yeah, I mean, again, he isn't tried and tested in the Premier League, but it could be one that's worth a gamble. You never know.
Yeah, I think it'd be big money as well, and whether Blackburn who will be a club now desperate to get out of that league, whether they're going to give it one more kind of go, and you would need to keep your best players to do so. But yeah, cracking player.
Thanks, Roger. It was you who sent us them. I knew somebody had. It was Roger, our mod, who sent us the Nick Pope facts. Thank you for that, mate. I knew I would use them at some point. They've been sitting there waiting for the opportunity, and Joe teed us up nicely. So, yeah, look, it's exciting. It's a Premier League window which we can sit back and just wait for the final pieces of the jigsaw to develop. But it is very, very exciting from our perspective. The clock has beaten us, though. That is the end of the hour. I am going to be back tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock until 12 o'clock, which is good news for our overseas viewers. I know sometimes they like to tune in live. From my perspective, got to do it slightly earlier tomorrow. So 11 till 12, me and Ross Gregory will be taking you through any transfer developments and looking at whatever else has happened at Newcastle United over the last 7 days. I will be back with Joe for the transfer show next Monday. Have a good week, mate, and I'll see you on Thursday.
You too. Take care, guys.
Take care, pal.